Hello, this is Seth and you're watching Rodriguez Mystic, and this is the first time I've made a video in about 5 years. For anyone that used to watch me, there was a time many years ago when I would upload fairly frequently, and then I made a lot of my old videos private. Because I just felt like disappearing for a while. I've had a lot of things going on in my life. Anyway, I'm making this video today. I don't know if I'm going to return to YouTube, but I'm making this video because basically it would be ridiculous if I didn't make this video. If any of you still follow me, for anyone who even remembers me, if you do follow me, still to this day, it's probably on Instagram. That's the main platform that I use, and you will know that I have made an Oracle deck and I've written a guidebook to accompany the Oracle deck, and it took me 5 years to make it, and it has really occupied my time in the last 5 years. It's been very, very intense. I had no intention for it to take this long. But I finally got there in the end. I finally did it, and I self-published it, and I actually launched it in March of this year. So it's at the time of making this video now, we're in June 2023, and I launched the deck and the book together in March of this year. And basically I haven't really done a lot to promote it. I'm not very good at self-promotion. So I thought, I do still have an audience, or I do still have subscribers here on YouTube. So if anybody is around and hasn't forgotten me, if anyone sees this video, then I can let you know about it, because some of you may not follow me on Instagram. And if anybody wants to share this video, please feel free. You know, that would help out a lot. I'm really not very experienced at all at self-promotion. I don't want to do overkill, but I appreciate that I need to do some promotion. So in this video, I'll try not to be too long. I'm just going to give you some basic information about the Oracle deck, what it's about, and where you can purchase copies if anybody is interested. So I'm going to start by just telling you all the practical stuff about it first, and then I'll go into what the theme of the deck is, although you'll be able to guess if you've already seen some images, and when you see the title, you will obviously be able to guess it's about one of my biggest passions in life. So the Oracle deck is called Oracle of the Witch Current, so obviously it's about witchcraft. And there are 4 different versions of the deck available. I'm going to show 2 of them to you now. So there are 4 versions of the deck available, and they are available through the website makeplayingcards.com, which is a print-on-demand service, and they do actually make really good quality cards. I'm really happy with the quality. And I have 4 versions available of the cards. All the information, of course, is going to be in the information box below this video. So there is 2 sizes, and there are 2 versions of each size. So this is the regular size, which is it's basically the size of an average tarot card. I compared the size to a Rider-Waite-Smith tarot card, and it's a little bit taller and maybe slightly thinner, but it's essentially tarot card size. So there's this size, and then there is the larger size, which is like your more typical Oracle card size deck. So for each size, there are 2 versions. There's what you might call the more bougie version, and then there's the more economical version. So of the regular size cards, this is the more bougie version, and they come in a tin. And I'm really, really happy with how the tin came out. This image is actually printed on the front of the tin. For some reason I was thinking it was going to be a sticker on the front, but it's actually printed onto the tin, which I love. So I'll just open it up so you can see. So this comes in the tin. Well, I'll show the cards more in a moment when I talk about the deck. So obviously you can see the backs of the cards. So tins obviously are ideal for if you're travelling with your cards. It keeps them nice and safe. So there's the tin version, as I've just said, and then there's also, you can also buy the regular size cards in a plain white card tuck box, which that would be the cheapest or most affordable option. And then of the large cards, the bougie or the more luxurious version is this one, which is in a custom design box. And this, unlike the tin, this actually has some information on the back as well. And it opens up like this. And this is the most, this is the priciest version of the deck. This is like the full works, you could say. And then of course again you can buy this size of card deck in a plain white card tuck box, which is a bit cheaper and more affordable. So the reason why I've made four versions of the deck available to people is for reasons of affordability, because obviously, as many of us know, if you're into the world of tarot and oracle cards, you'll probably know already that self-published decks cannot compete with the prices of the mass-produced decks. So, you know, you can buy an oracle deck produced by a big company like Hay House for £15, maybe even less. I'm sure there have been times when I've seen decks for like £10.99. This is in British pounds sterling. Obviously I can't compare, I can't compete with those kinds of prices. So self-published decks will always be more costly. So I wanted to provide an option for people who wanted the deck but weren't bothered about the fancy packaging and just wanted the cards. So that's why I've given these other options for the plain white card tuck boxes. So those are the cards. Those are, as I say, they're all available. All four versions are available on makeplayingcards.com, and basically when you order a deck, they will print it and then send it out to you. They ship all over the world. Obviously there are different shipping costs depending on where you are. I don't have any control over that. Now I'm going to just talk quickly about... Oh, before I mention that actually, one thing I do need to say about the cards is that unfortunately they do not come with a little white book or a little white booklet inside. Again, the reason why is due to the cost. It just cranked up the production costs way too much. I couldn't believe how much more it would make the cards cost if I actually included a little white booklet. So what I've done instead is on one of these cards there is a link, but I will also provide the link down below, and the link is also on my Instagram and social media. There is a link where you can download a free PDF file onto your phone of the Little White Book, and it's literally called Oracle of the Witch Current, the Little White Book by Seth David Rodriguez. And that booklet is about 50 pages, so all the card meanings and a lot of information is in that, so you can get that for free basically. I mean, you could just look at that without even buying the deck. Maybe if you were interested in what some of the cards are, you could have a look at that completely free of charge to decide if you would like to purchase a deck in the first place or not. So yeah, the Little White Booklet is not a physical one, it's just a PDF. Now, additionally to this, I've written a big guidebook that is almost 500 pages. Now, the guidebook, I don't want anyone to feel put off and think that they have to purchase the guidebook in order to work with the cards. You absolutely do not need to. The Little White Booklet will give you everything that you need. The book, however, is for people that are interested in going more in depth into all the topics that I explore in the deck. And the book is available on lulu.com. It's not available on Amazon. Unfortunately, I did want it to be available on there, as most people would want it to be. But I know for obvious reasons there's a lot of people out there that have issues with Amazon, so for some of you, you may actually be quite glad that it's not there. But yeah, it's no different to using Amazon. You just go to lulu.com, search for the title of the book. Again, the link will be below this video, and then you can choose whether you want to purchase the paperback, which is this one, or the hardback, which I have here. And that's literally the only difference between them, is that one is hardback and one is paperback. Both of them contain full colour images of all the cards in the deck. So this is the Hecate image. full colour images of all of the cards, and it's 68 cards, so it's just 10 cards shorter than the size of a tarot deck. So they're available on lulu.com, and yeah, that's all the... Obviously the paperback is going to be a bit more affordable than the hardback. But yeah, that's all the practical information out of the way. So now that I've told you where you can purchase the decks and the books and the different versions available, I may as well start showing you some of the cards. I think I'll show you some of the cards from the larger, just because they are larger, so they'll probably show up on camera a bit better. So, this is the back of the card, and I have here, I'm just going to go through it. I haven't planned which cards to show you. So this is Saturn. So we have an image of the god Saturn, which is based on an historical Roman statue, I believe. And then we have the cameo of Saturn, the glyph of Saturn. We have different symbols that represent different planetary intelligences, different symbols from the grimoires that are connected to Saturn. And I have a card like this for each of the 7 classical planets. And I also have the elements in here. Ancestors. Let me see if I can show you some of my favourite images. Because even though I created these, I do have my favourites, and I have my other images that I'm not as in love with, but still happy with. You know, I'm happy with every image that's in here. Healing magic. And it's been very interesting to me so far to see which images people have said to me that they're particularly drawn to, because there are some images that some people have told me are their absolute favourites, and it was really surprising to me because they were images that weren't, just didn't stand out for me, and some of my personal favourites don't seem to be anybody else's favourite yet anyway. There's not many people who have purchased the deck yet. This is Love Magic. I should probably talk about the deck itself. I'll just show you one more card. This is Mars. Again, following the same structure where we have a classical image of Mars, and then we have the cameo, the planetary glyph, and then the symbols for the different planetary intelligences connected to Mars. So in order to just like describe or to introduce what the deck is about, I'll just read from the back of my book to give you an idea. So it says, Oracle of the Witch Current is a colourful 68-card journey through the worlds of witchcraft and Western occultism. This deck can be used in a variety of ways, from divination, guidance and magical diagnosis, to contemplation and furthering one's studies in magic and spirituality. Connecting you to the current or overarching spirit of witchery in the world, these cards will introduce you to cosmic forces, ritual techniques, folk customs, mythology, witchcraft history, and so much more. And I will just go on to read a little bit further on what the guidebook is. This accompanying official guidebook will allow you to explore the themes of the deck in greater depth, learn about trance states, out-of-body experiences, animism, spellcasting, and the resurgence of the divine feminine, uncover the stories of old gods and fallen angels, become acquainted with the legacies of witches past and present, and receive ritualistic inspirations for your own practice. So, yeah, if you haven't already gathered, the whole thing is all about witchcraft, because as we know, if you are a subscriber to my YouTube channel, or you used to watch the content that I used to make, that's my whole thing, is that I am an occultist, I'm a witch, and these subjects are really what set my soul on fire. You know, this is my biggest passion in life, is mysticism, religion, spirituality, the occult, but particularly the magical arts, and the spirituality of witchcraft. So that's what the whole book is, the whole deck is about. It's very much about the current, so it's about the current of witchcraft, the spirit of witchcraft, and how it has manifested and evolved throughout the years in different parts of the globe. Although there is a big focus on the Western occult scene, there are occasions where I will dip into talking about, for example, some Asian magical practices, but I do tend to focus more on a lot on the West. I talk about the history of the modern witchcraft movement and all the elements that make it what it is today. So the influence from the grimoires, the influences from folk magic, the influences from ceremonial magical orders like the Golden Dawn, the influence of traditional Wicca and how important traditional Wicca was in actually birthing the modern witchcraft movement in the English-speaking world, at least. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of everything in these cards. There are cards that focus on magical practices. There are cards that focus on histories, mythologies, famous witches of the past, particularly with an emphasis on witches from the past who were part of the modern witchcraft movement and played a part in expressing the witch current, as I like to describe it. And the cards can be used for many different things. They can be used as talismans on your altars and shrines for the work that you're doing, like this is protection magic. If you're doing a protection working, you could have this on your altar, for example. If you are doing some work with the horned god, you could have this image on there. They can be used for divination, of course, but they can also be used for contemplation, visualization, astral work, if you want to, like, visit the interior landscape of the card in vision. They can be used directly in magical workings. You can have a card on an altar or a series of cards that relate to something that you are working towards or are in sympathy with a magical goal that you have. They can also be used to get yourself some inspiration on what practices or what areas of magic you may want to go into. Let's say, for example, you're planning a ritual, you have some ideas about what elements are going to be a part of that, but you just want some more inspiration. These cards can provide that. And by the way as well, like for example, where I have certain cards that represent specific spirits or deities, it doesn't mean if you receive that card that you have to work with that particular being. I'm fully aware that not all magical practitioners even like to work with deities, for example. So let's say, for example, if you had the card Aradia, who features on the front cover of the packaging, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to work with Aradia, that you have to, figure out how to invoke her and develop a relationship with her. It can refer instead to other spirits and deities connected to what she is about, or if you don't work with spirits at all, that's totally fine. This card, even though it's a being, it represents a lot of different spheres of influence. There are inspirations you can take from this card for ingredients that you might want to use, for or just for a particular focus or particular symbolism that you want to work with. So, for example, with Aradia, one of her big things is that she is a teacher of witchcraft. So you could take that and run with it. You could say, okay, I'm doing a ritual, there needs to be a teaching element to it. So maybe you're planning a group ritual and you think, okay, this part of the ceremony, I can actually do a bit of teaching with the other students or coven members who are there, or whatever it is that you're doing. Another example would be Babylon. This is one of my personal favourite cards. I'm just so happy with how her face came out with the makeup there. So, for example, again, you could draw Babylon. It doesn't mean you have to invoke the goddess Babylon. Instead, it may mean that you just want to work with very Venusian or perhaps very sexual or seductive symbols in your magic. It can absolutely mean that you might want to work with the spirit of the rose, because roses are heavily connected to Babylon. So you could just take that away from this card. If you're planning a ritual and this comes up as one of the cards for your inspiration, it could just be that you need to work with roses or something Venusian, or perhaps you need to give particular consideration to any makeup that may be worn while you are performing that magical working. So each card really does open up so many different avenues of exploration, and it's not a simple case of just do what the card says, like do what it says on the tin. So for example, sigil magic doesn't necessarily mean that you have to work with sigils. It could be a more subtle meaning from the card that you take away from this. But if you read the little white book or the guidebook, you will understand what I'm saying, that each of these cards can point to so many different areas of exploration. Each card will open up a new avenue or a set of avenues to explore. Road opener. And if you're already a pretty established witch or occultist, you'll probably find that you can do a decent reading with this deck without having to look at any booklets at all, because the messages and symbolism, many of the symbols in these cards and the words will already be familiar to you. So we have initiation, familiar spirit, talking of things being familiar. A lot of the symbols here and imagery will be familiar to many practicing witches already. And you will already have certain associations for many of these cards yourself already. This is Hecate again. I know that we showed her from the book. So yeah, it's I want this to be an educational tool for people. I think it would be a really good gift, actually, for somebody who's fairly new to the world of witchcraft, who wants to have one resource where everything is there, because if you have these cards, and especially if you have the guidebook as well, you have one source where you can, that branches out into so many different things. You can get a better understanding of the history of the modern witchcraft movement and why certain beliefs and practices are present. Because there's a lot of people that may not be fully aware, especially if you're new to witchcraft. I feel like witchcraft today can be quite overwhelming for people. Even just in my lifetime, like 20 years ago when I first got involved in the craft, there was a lot less choice and a lot fewer expressions of witchcraft. So 20 years ago, if somebody told you that they were a witch, chances were that they were either practicing Wicca or something very much in alignment with Wicca, or at the very least that their witchcraft involved pagan deities and the elements and the seasons, for example. Whereas nowadays there are lots of modern witches who have none of that at all. They don't work with the elements, they don't work with gods. Maybe they put more emphasis on working with their land or their ancestors. They work more with the spirits of the plants rather than calling on deities, for example. Some modern witches are not interested in their witchcraft being a religion necessarily, or a spiritual path even. So there are so many different approaches to witchcraft. I feel like it can get very overwhelming. And I think if I think about it, one of my personal motivations with creating this deck was to have something all in one place that would be like a guide to the witching world. Whether you're interested in Wicca, tradcraft, whether you're more into folk magic, because there's a lot of folk magic material in here as well, whether you're interested in the grimoires, whether you're interested in planetary magic, or just somebody that's interested in magic generally, modern magic. There's a lot of that in here as well. As I say, there's a lot of everything. The cards are divided into different groups. I'll tell you quickly what the cards groupings are. So I have 7 cards for each of the 7 classical planets from Western astrology. I have 5 cards for the elements, earth, air, fire, water and spirit. Then I have a category of cards known as deities and spirits, and those are all beings that have a mythological connection with witchcraft. Then we have mysteries and concepts. Then we have tools as another section, magical techniques and topics, and that's all of the categories. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just had to count that because I thought that it was 5. Okay, so there are 6 different categories that the cards are divided into, and that itself is something that you can use with these cards, because there are different spreads I provide where you can group the cards into their categories, and based on what it is you're wanting to know, you will then know which groupings to draw cards from, if that makes sense. So if you're planning a ritual, you already know that it's going to involve a particular goal. You already know that it's going to involve, let's say for example, really easy example, you know it's going to involve some candle magic, but maybe you need some guidance on the herbs to work with, or some of the symbolism or magical ideas that you want to work with in order to execute this ritual or spell. So it's basically, hopefully, a really juicy tool for inspiration for people. I will also say, even if you are not a practitioner, but you are somebody that loves oracle decks and you enjoy working with them and you enjoy learning about magical history, you can absolutely use this deck and find a lot of use from it. You don't have to be a practitioner. So for my armchair occultists out there who aren't particularly interested in practicing, but they may want to draw a few cards, you can still give yourself a reading with these. And it was really important for me that these cards can be used for lots of different things. You know, so it's important to me that these cards can be used for predictive readings and for very, very practical, mundane situations, but also that you can just use this deck to draw one card and meditate upon it and contemplate it and really get a lot of information and spiritual inspiration from it as well. So I want it to be a multi-use deck. I think that's everything really that I would like to say about the cards. As I say, it did take me a very long time to do this. When I first had the idea to produce this deck, I was very, very naive and I thought I'd be able to do the whole thing in a year. I wasn't planning on writing a book for it. I just thought I could write like a few basic keywords and that would be it. I wanted it to be used very intuitively. But as I got involved in actually creating it, more and more ideas just kept flooding to me. The whole thing feels very channeled, and I do feel and believe that I had to make this. Even if it doesn't make much of an impact, I still feel like I've achieved something by creating this, and in many ways this is my offering to the spirit of witchcraft itself, as well as to the wider community. And I feel that it's an obligation that is connected to my role as a priest of the craft, because I haven't been in a coven for several years now, and I'm not, active as a priest in a coven. So teaching or spreading through my writing, spreading information through my writing and my art, that is another thing that I can do. The book basically ended up being like a bit of an encyclopedia, an encyclopedic guide to the modern witchcraft world and all the different origins of all the different roots that we draw upon as witches. I'm very concerned with origins and history and where things come from, so that's a big point of emphasis with this book and with this deck. I thought I'd like to show you now, as I end this video, what some of the original paintings actually look like. They're all acrylic paintings, and in total I did about 150 paintings because I redid some of the images that I wasn't happy with. So yeah, I did like 150 paintings for 68 cards. This is the image for the meditation card. I hope that you can see it. I'm not very good with cameras and everything. This is the smaller canvas, so a lot of paintings are done on this size canvas, but then I also have, speaking of Babylon, because I said that she was one of my favourites, this size of canvas. I've done quite a lot of images on this size as well. So yeah, as you can hopefully see, I've had my work cut out for me. I have, I've been very, very busy and very focused with it. I'll just show you one more painting. This one is Sea Priestess, which is obviously takes inspiration from the image of La Diosa del Mar, which is a popular image to represent Yemaya, the Orisha Yemaya, but there's other influences in this card as well, connected to Isis, and the novel The Sea Priestess by Dion Fortune, and her contributions to the world of witchcraft, even though she herself wasn't exactly a witch.